So a massive warm welcome back to the CIO WaterCooler. Today we're going to attempt to see beyond the hype and demystify zero trust. I've got a great guest to do just that. His name's Gerald Pfeifer. He's from a company called SUSE. So Gerald, could you tell everyone watching a little about who you are and what you do?
Happy to. I've been with SUSE for 20 plus years now. Started in engineering, different roles on the business side, and now I'm CTO responsible for EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I have been doing open source for longer than the term exists, which means a lot of Linux, recently more Kubernetes. What really interests me these days is how to stitch things together. So how do we create systems that are easy to scale, easy to manage, and then that are resilient? How do we make the lives of people who develop and deploy and maintain applications easier? And how to make sure whatever we do is actually not just resilient, but secure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me today. And what I'd love to do is try and demystify the world of zero trust. There's a lot of hype around it. It will mean different things to different people. So to just set the scene for our conversation today, how would you define zero trust?
So first of all, I wouldn't call it zero trust. I think that's, I understand where the term is coming from, but I think it's a little bit too marketing, in my opinion.
Mm.
What zero trust really is about isn't zero trust, because as human beings, as IT people in business, we cannot live from zero trust. So I would call it, which doesn't sound as catchy, deliberate trust. And it really is about not keeping your doors widely open, but being very deliberate where, when, how, who you trust. There's varying formal definitions that have 7 or 4 or 8 pillars, but really it's about being deliberate about trust, using minimal privilege. So don't watch videos as admin. That would be the simple desktop example. And assume something bad is going to happen. Assume your environment is going to be breached at one point.
And I was going to ask you around a lot of the myths and misconceptions that surround zero trust. And you've started with a great one there, the name itself. But are there any other myths or misconceptions that maybe frustrate you that you hear a lot that maybe attached to zero trust and the kind of things that we're talking about here?
Yeah, and zero trust and security products in general, there is this snake oil factor.
Yeah.
Buy my product, buy my service, buy my solution, and nothing bad ever is going to happen. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
Go to the dentist once a year, twice a year. That's a good idea. Do oral hygiene, whatever, is a good idea. Still, one of your wisdom teeth may actually give you some pain at one point, and then you have a problem that you need to address. And on that one, I'm talking from experience.
And to bring to life what we're talking about here, I mean, you're speaking to a lot of people from all around the world with various problems and wanting to implement a zero trust approach. What does a successful implementation look like? I think we spoke previously, before we even started recording today, about your Swiss cheese approach, which is a great way of explaining it. But how would you explain how that successful implementation should look like?
Yeah, I firmly believe that ultimately humans need to control policy when it comes to it the other one and otherwise. So we, or specifically the security team, the IT admins, they need to control their policies. However, there's a difference between controlling at a high level and micromanaging. Because micromanagement is in any management one-on-one course, you learn that don't do that. Sometimes in IT, we see this tendency for people try and do that, and it doesn't work in IT either. So we need to set general policies and then let systems automatically deal with the majority of it. Anything new, anything unknown, the system can always warn. The system always can block by default. That would be typically zero trust. And obviously, we need to train the systems, but don't try to write the finely grained, the detailed policies manually and then maintain them and do tickets and whatnot on a daily basis because you will break down.
And if you listen to a lot of sales vendors out there, they will almost fool you into thinking that a zero trust approach is, hey, buy our solution. But of course, it's not that simplistic at all. So, how does it work with other tools to achieve that balance between control and automation? Because it's not just about having one tool, is it? It's all got to work together.
Oh, that's my Swiss cheese analogy. I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
This is something I first actually encountered in the context of COVID-19. You know, talking with virologists, and essentially what they say, what we should do in terms of protecting when there's a pandemic or otherwise, and actually how the human body works, there is not one thing. There's not just wear masks or don't meet people or wash your hands. It's really different measures, and each of them provides security safety to some extent. And same thing in IT, just one firewall, just one two-factor authentication, single sign-on, system, just one zero trust, whatever, is not sufficient. We need several pieces that play together and that ideally vary. There is some countries where government, they have to use not one or two, they have to use three scanners, three security scanners. And at one point, that's where you reach diminishing returns. So instead of adding a fourth and a fifth of the same thing, maybe come up with a different approach that is more complementary.
And for anyone listening that's or watching our conversation today, and they're embarking on a very similar journey, maybe they're talking to multiple vendors, maybe even going out to tender on things like this. What kind of questions should they be asking? Is any advice that you would offer to anyone that's about to embark on a zero trust journey of sorts?
Yeah, can I just buy, deploy in 1 hour, and everything is good, cool, and I'll be safe? If you get a very confident yes, I would have questions.
Yeah.
So even if you have an intelligent system that learns, you still need to set high-level policies. You still need to train the system, even if it trains itself mostly. There's cases where we will need to look at the results. Is it okay to send all my data or significant amounts of data to Southwest Kyrgyzstan? Maybe it is. In most cases, probably is not. So if it sounds great, it may be great. If it sounds too good to be true, be a little careful. That's one thing. Then I would ask, okay, does the vendor have a more holistic approach? Because security has other aspects like secure supply chains that in software are really key, especially if you see how quickly applications are developed and updated and deployed and redeployed. And what credentials does the vendor have? Do they have any, certifications, any government certifications? And you don't need certification in every country. Some require that, but either in the UK or in the US or say in Germany or France, I would be looking for that.
Fantastic advice. And of course, you will also be attending the IT Leadership Challenge event in June with us at CIO WaterCooler. And I've got to ask, you probably can't share too much with us yet, but are there any teasers that you can offer on what we can expect from your talk at the event?
Well, I would have talked about Swiss cheese, but we gave that away. Um, Castles. I like pictures of castles in my presentations and how they worked in the past, how they work today, how they may not work today anymore, and how we need to adjust our security posture. So if you're interested in castles and maybe guards and modern drones on top of castles, that's definitely going to be interesting for you.
Well, you had me at castles, so I will see you there. And we only scratched the surface of zero trust today. Such a huge topic in a short 10-minute video, but just a big thank you for taking the time to talk about that with me and offer some fantastic insights. Thanks for joining me today, Gerald.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
And for everyone watching, we look forward to meet you all in person at the IT Leadership Challenge event in London on June the 26th. Make sure you add that to your calendars. You'll find more details on the CIO WaterCooler website and the description to this video. So hopefully we'll see you all then.